Welcome to the season 3 finale of Unmute Yourself. I'm your host, Jennifer Carter, and this podcast is about lifting the curtain on leadership, purpose, and the real stories behind women who dared to do things differently. We'll talk about how they found their path, the struggles along the way, and how they built something that truly matters. These are normal people doing extraordinary things because I want you to know you are extraordinary too. Today's guest is Elizabeth Taylor. Yes, the Elizabeth Taylor, which I'm sure you love this, Liz. And around LinkedIn, many people know her as the corporate bestie. Don't you love that, y'all? The corporate bestie. So Liz is a sales enablement strategist, leadership development expert, and the founder of her own growing business focused on helping organizations build stronger sales teams through intentional training, better systems, and smarter leadership. So after years of thriving in corporate sales and leadership development, where she was building onboarding programs, sales leader development, enablement strategy, high-level learning systems. You get the picture, right? She made the bold decision to walk away from the golden handcuffs, which is so scary. It's so scary, of corporate life and bet on herself. And now she helps companies strengthen sales performance while also helping women navigate confidence, visibility, and leadership in spaces that still feel very, like, I don't know, Liz, like bro coded, man world, manosphere. That's a thing now, right? Ugh. Okay. So she is sharp, hilarious, wildly self-aware, and one of those people who will tell you the truth while making you laugh at the same time. So Liz, welcome to Unmute Yourself.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me. And what a lovely introduction. It always it brings me a little bit of joy when someone introduces me into their space, which I'm honored and so excited to be here and have this conversation with you today. Also, a part of me when I hear intros about myself, I want to be like, wow, that does describe me. But also at the same time, flattery gets you everywhere. So keep going, right? And I straddle those two those concepts of humility, but also I like that. Thank you.
I know. Don't you feel like such a special human when someone introduces you?
Absolutely.
I know.
Absolutely. Second grade me is very excited right now.
I
So
know.
is this adult version of me.
You get a star on the board today, Liz. I'm just saying, on the
Thank you.
blackboard. I know.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Okay. Girl, I cannot wait to dive into your whole story because if I remember correctly, you enjoyed your corporate life.
I did. I
You did.
did. I really liked it. I spent a lot of time. So I got my first job when I was 16 years old and I worked at a Starbucks and I was there for 11 years. And I remember being the person who was working on holidays and getting up at 4 in the morning to be there at 5 a.m. and dealing with people very grumpy over their lattes. And it's like, there's got to be more to this. And I would get a lot of white collar people would come in, pharmaceutical reps would come in, and all I wanted, all I wanted was a 9 to 5. I used to tell myself if I could just work a 9 to 5, that would make me so happy, it would fill my cup. And when I finally had the opportunity to do that, I was ecstatic to be in a corporate environment because I knew that there comes so much growth and responsibility and opportunity to prove yourself. And I'm a high performer. I'm highly motivated. I love working in a team dynamic. And so being in corporate allowed me to do all of those things and also get recognized for it, which I also can appreciate as somewhat controversial of a statement to make because not everybody does. But for me, I found so much reward and recognition in working in corporate. And I thought I was going to be there forever. And who knows, maybe someday I'll be back there. I don't know what the future holds, but I did enjoy it when I was there. Yes.
So, I liked it too. For a lot of those same reasons, because you get to work in a team, you get to be creative, the decision making. It's like steering the Titanic, I always felt like. Huge
Mm,
challenge.
yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
remember, I think you told me eventually it just stopped feeling good. So
Yeah.
how did you know the burnout wasn't just, my gosh, I need a spa day and a vacation, but an actual, I need to get the heck out of here kind of burnout?
Yeah, well, because I was doing the spa days and the vacations, and it wasn't doing the thing that I thought it was going to do. I worked for a company that we had very generous, flexible schedule policies. We had flex time off, so I had unlimited vacation days. We had wellness and mental health days that were provided to us. And I was taking advantage of all of those things. My boss was taking advantage of all of those things. Our whole team was. And so it wasn't that the team dynamic, didn't feel good anymore. I think what ends up happening is when you work in a corporate environment, once you hit that kind of 10-year mark, you start feeling maybe not, I don't say it's a lack of challenge, but my area, I do sales enablement and sales training, and that's a very specific kind of thing. And some businesses prioritize that and invest in that, and some businesses don't do it as much as others. And either way is absolutely okay. It has to align to your strategy. What I found was I wanted to keep doing more and more and more. And I just felt like the overall environment wasn't really setting me up for success to do that. And of course, there are organizational changes and a rotating door of leadership. People come and go, which also creates a little bit of inconsistency. But ultimately, it just became really hard to do the things that I loved to do. And I thought, why keep doing this? Why struggle the way I'm struggling? Why convince myself and put myself in a box and hope for the best when I'm not really seeing the results that I want to see? And it just doesn't feel good. So after, probably a good 2 years of looking externally, trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to do, I made the decision to leave and to start my own business doing sales enablement.
And I love that it took you like the 2 years to come to the realization.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
remember what caused you to decide, forget finding another 9 to 5 job and go all in on my business?
There were a couple of milestones in my most recent past couple of years that were, just kind of pulling my intuition in that direction. One was I had the opportunity to work with a vendor at my organization, and she does sales training, and she's fabulous at it. She was fabulous at it, and people loved her. And I also saw the kind of money she was making because I was handling the agreements for those engagements. And I was thinking to myself, gosh, I do this internally. The reason why we're having an expert come in is because we don't have the full-time staff to help deliver training. She also came with just different kinds of expertise in sales than anything that I had or any of our team members had. And so that was something that I always thought was interesting. Like she was absolutely crushing it and still continues to crush it. And she's a mentor of mine and my North Star. And so, I saw that and it gave me an example of what's possible. And that's always been in the back of my mind. But then the other thing I would say, and I don't know if I mentioned this previously or not, but my nephew back in September of 2024 was diagnosed with leukemia. He was 9 at the time and he's 11 now. And, around the time that I was thinking about leaving my job, I sat there and really got reflective in what is this all for? Right? How are we showing up? How do we want to be? What are the things that really matter in life? And why do we want to go to a place and spend the majority of our time in an environment that doesn't feel good? Why not do the scary thing? Why not do the uncertainty, the thing that's uncertain, and just take that risk? And I'm still young enough where I can and it's going to be okay. And just trust myself. Just trust that it's going to happen because I am a hard worker, or because I'm a high performer, or because I'm motivated, it will come. And so, I think a lot of, those two things in particular, working with that particular sales consultant, getting really, kind of shocking news about a family member can really shift a person's mindset into thinking about, in the grand scheme of things, what is really important and how do we want to live our lives.
So it even sounds like you got in touch with who you are and what you wanted out of your life and the self trust factor. Tell us about when you took that leap and you're like, I could do this, I'm doing it. And then the direct deposit stopped hitting. Because it's like,
Well, it was
"Oh, I don't have this." Yeah, what was that like and how did you work through it?
Yeah, it was really hard and scary. And I mean, admittedly so, been out on my own doing my own business for a little over a year now, and I still am learning to trust myself every day. Like even just today, I walk through the hallway of my house and I'm thinking to myself, okay, just trust the process. Trust the process, it will come. But it took a long time for me to get there. So It's hard. It's hard to take that risk, and then all of a sudden, your really great paycheck is gone. And my husband and I, we don't have any kiddos. It's the two of us. We have a 12-year-old fur baby named Bruce, and I still have responsibilities that I have to show up for, as do you, right? And so
Right.
we just have to do the hard thing. Nothing worth having is easy. So starting your own business was easy and super attainable for everybody. Everybody would be doing it. And so I had to really get clear on like, okay, what am I doing? What is the intention and purpose behind it? How much money do I have to actually allow me to do this before I'm going, oh my gosh, maybe I do need to get another job and just kind of go through those ebbs and flows. I'll tell you, Jennifer, I am sure you felt this way too, but there's a lot that you're willing to compromise and sacrifice on as far as daily spend is concerned, and in order to get the alignment that you need for your self-fulfillment.
Oh, for sure. For
Yeah,
sure. Cause it's like, do I want to compromise this about myself? No.
right.
So the other things it's easy to say no to or just shift the thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've had to
I
say no to a lot of things because before I could just say yes, travel is a great example. I'm also in a very different phase in my life right now where I don't have kids, and so this new business venture is my baby, and I'm dedicating a lot of time to it that I think a lot of, friends of mine who have babies, they're dedicating
Right.
some of that time to their families and building up a home. And I am taking this time to build up this business and go from crawl, walk, run to make sure that I'm building something that is, can be around for a long time, that offers value, that's scalable. It's There's so much uncertainty, but I think in the entire experience, we have to get really uncomfortable with the unknown. Otherwise, we're always going to be comfortable and then complacent, right?
Right. Right, and I have found that has been a big change for me, like, going from corporate thinking, like, "This is what we do. Here's the yearly cycle. This is budget season, and then it's planning season." And small business thinking is wildly different and kind of
Totally different.
jarring.
It is.
What Yeah, what
No, go
was
ahead.
that
Yes, sir.
biggest, like, "Oh, shit, this is so different" moment for you as an entrepreneur?
Well, number one, as an entrepreneur, we're wearing all the hats. So there is no more, I'm going to send this over to legal and review, or I'm going to have marketing do this, or I'm going to have sales do this, right? We are all of those things. When we are all of those things, we have to step into them during the appropriate times of doing so. That's what running a business is. So there's that piece. But then like also I come from a large enterprise organization. We had over 10,000 employees. I had a sales force of over 900 people in the US alone that we're building sales training programs for. So the frameworks and structures that were in place to keep a very complex matrix organization running, small businesses don't have that, right? The fundamentals are the same, but the execution isn't always there. Or I think about even some of the first clients that I worked with, they're not enterprise clients, they're small businesses. They don't need the same things. And so I've really had to think about how do I change my thinking to be more focused on the needs of myself or the needs of my clients in this particular moment, knowing that there's something in the future for us to pursue down the road, but what we need right now isn't always what I was exposed to and what I'm coming from, if that makes sense.
I love that. Yeah, everybody's at a different stage. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, so can you explain, like, what you actually do? Like, what even is sales enablement?
I love that. So,
Yeah.
sales enablement, I like to explain in two different ways. The very easy way that I like to put it is my job as a sales enablement expert is to come in and help sellers make money faster, easier, more profitably. Those three things, period, end of story. So, if we have sales enablement in our business and our sellers aren't doing those three things, then we're probably not doing a very good job of sales enablement. The other way of looking at it, more technically, more fundamentally, is training, it's the tech stack, it's the metrics and reporting, it's the rewards and recognition that we can put in place in a business so that salespeople can feel good, can have what they need to succeed so that they can drive revenue faster, easier, smarter, more profitably, all of those things, right? So what I love to do is I work with organizations, large and small, where I come in and I help them figure out what are the sales enablement best practices, functions, tools that we need in here so that your salespeople can generate more revenue? And how do we create an experience out of that? And so I do everything from the tactical identification of what that looks like in the business, all the way up to let's build you a program, all the way through let's execute that program and deliver some sales training.
Oh my gosh. So basically you look at different sales departments and say, this is working, this is not, this is how you fix it and make it better. Got it. Got it. Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. And being this is my first foray into like you said before, entrepreneurs, you're a small business, you have to do it all. Now you have to sell. Oh my gosh, I don't
Mhm.
know what I'm doing. It feels weird. It feels icky. Like sales has that weird reputation. And I've been working a lot on that mindset.
Yeah.
Do you see women in particular struggling with sales, or is it just me?
So it's everybody. I
Okay.
think there's 2 different kinds of salespeople. There are the people who sit in a B2B sales organization where there is a marketing function that is feeding them leads, and there's an expectation that those salespeople are calling on those leads and showing up to sell. And some of them do that really well, and some of them don't do it really well. And then you have this other type of seller. A lot of this exists with founder-led sales, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small business, very small businesses like 10 employees or less, where yeah, sales is like a little bit of a stigma, right? It's icky, it's gross. We are selling B2B, but it doesn't feel that way. And
Mm.
so, yeah, a lot of women struggle with people in general, but a lot of women struggle with it too. And it's funny that you've asked about this. I was just chatting with a woman a couple weeks ago who was like, "You need to do something for for women in sales who are doing founder-led sales." I actually have a survey going out right now because I'm trying to understand if TCB, the corporate bestie, creates some kind of programming for founder-led sales, what does that need to look like? And the data is already showing me the ick factor. People don't know how to have a conversation about sales in a way that feels comfortable, that feels confident and fluid and enables a conversion of I'm about to get a client, but also I'm being helpful and valuable and authentic to who I am, right? I think that's where a lot of the struggle is with females in sales.
Yeah, to me, do you know Paulina Tillman?
I don't think I do.
You would love her. That's another story.
Okay.
But the more what I'm learning is the more that I'm just myself and making friends and actually going out to help people rather than make a sale, the more
Mhm.
successful I am, which is just so strange to me. I'm like, oh, I am selling things, but I just don't consider myself a salesperson.
Well, and that I think is a mindset shift, right? Again, going back to this concept of we're business owners. I had someone give me some really tough love back in December. I was trying to figure out what it was that I was going to do. I'd left my company. I wanted to start this business. What I started doing in my business is not what I'm doing today. I originally wanted to do leadership development programming for first time managers, just generically across the board.
Yeah.
And what I was finding in my conversations was people would find out that I have a sales training and enablement background, and they're like, "Why aren't you doing that?" And I think it's because I needed a break, needed to get out for a second and recalibrate. Someone once said to me, when I was making this pivot, she was like, "Liz, you are a CEO. You need to show up as a CEO. And whether it's yourself or whether you have a 20-person, staff that you're employing, you have an accountability to show up and represent your business and your company. And you have to speak like a CEO and you have to own a room like a CEO and you have to treat your business like you are a CEO." And that really stuck with me. And I think that piece of advice and tough love really helped me shift that mindset of, okay, I am running a business. I have to be a salesperson. I am running a business. I have to know where my leads are coming from. I have to know where my revenue is coming from. I have to be able to create some kind of system and process to do that. And it's really taking a lot of what I learned in the enterprise and just applying it to my business. I didn't think that it mattered or it didn't
Right.
apply, but it does. It
It totally
absolutely does
does.
because a business is still a business. The foundations and the fundamentals are still very much the same.
I love it. Yeah, and it's been interesting to remember that as you get
Mm,
sucked into the day to day, like, hold on, zoom out, what really matters.
yeah.
I love
Yeah.
Hey, so during our prep call, you had
Mhm.
mentioned Abraham Hicks.
Yes.
Yes. And the idea of deliberate creation instead
Yes.
of living in default mode. Tell us about that, because I don't think that our listeners probably don't know about all of this. I
I don't
know.
know that we have enough time
I
on this
know. I
conversation
know.
today.
I know.
I love it. I have always been very interested in just, I'll say woo because everyone is using that term right now. I've always been interested in woo. I have a cousin who's like a sister of mine, and the two of us have always been into it. And so I'm naturally attracted towards some of these types of content and books and literature. So I, I do feel before I even left corporate, we need to be showing up in ways that are incredibly deliberate and intentional. I did a core values exercise many years ago, and basically, the core values exercise allows us to really like recognize what is it that we value, and let's make sure that we live our lives according to our core values, because then we'll feel alignment and we'll feel really good about our contributions, and people will feel that as well. And so a lot of that led me to this place of I'm building this business, and I can either spiral and get caught up in the things that I don't know, or overanalyze something, or feel really and get really hard on myself about why I do or do not do something, or I can be incredibly intentional and feel confident about the decisions and choices that I make. And so I was turned on to this law of attraction book and the Abraham books, and I Abraham Hicks, and I listened to it on Spotify. I highly recommend listening to it on Spotify or the audiobook, because I found it incredibly interesting to listen to. But deliberate creation is being able to truly design your life, have a goal in mind, have something very specifically that you want to work towards, and live your life in accordance with that goal, rather than living life on default where we're just walking out of the house and whatever happens, happens. But
Right.
I'm walking out of the house and I'm going to a networking event, and I want to walk away with at least three new names in my back pocket. For me to go and do that and be very intentional about how I am spending time in that room and who I am speaking with and what it is that I want to share when I'm in those conversations, I'm more likely going to yield a result that I'm looking for versus just going and hoping for the best. So, that's kind of like an easy way that I can compare the two. But the law of attraction has been a really amazing concept that I continue to hang on to. And it's the thing that helps me get through tough days. And I don't worry about as much stuff anymore.
Because you trust where you're going.
Exactly. Literally, I tell business owners all of the time, even business owners who are in the same space as me. A lot of female entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, founders, they get caught up in like competition, right? And like who am I competing with? Who are my competitors? I need to protect my space. Whereas my approach is why there is enough money and there is enough clients and there is enough abundance for all of us. So why not create a space for all of us to exist, learn from each other, and be able to say, hey, that's something that I can absolutely help you with, and I would love to do that. Also, Jennifer over here is really great at that too, and I would love to recommend her. And you, the client, can decide who is best for you. And that's really
Right.
working in alignment. That's really law of attraction, right? All of my clients so far in this entire year of business has come from either me looking and doing, having the conversations, or someone recommending me. And it's because I just click with somebody. I don't have to explain why sales enablement is so important. I don't have to explain why the corporate bestie is the name of my business. They just already know and they get it, and they want to do business with me. And that's the power of
I love it. Love it. You sound
it. Yeah, it's great.
you sound so aligned and so intentional and so
Yeah,
happy.
and it feels good. Well, that's the thing, right? When you are working in a corporate setting, and you're doing work that you enjoy, you're doing work that feels good, what is the underlying why of why we're showing up every day, right? And when we're working in corporate, a lot of times we get caught up in, well, I'm showing up because I have bills to pay, because I have a lifestyle I want to maintain, because I have sports that I want the kids to be in, because whatever the why is, bills, whatever the why
Right.
is, right, is very different than like when we think about our true whys as like humans and souls occupying this universe right now, right? Like that's a very different kind of why. I want to do things that make me feel good because life is too short. Life is too short to be miserable and stressed out and unhappy and doing things for other people. We can be here, serve ourselves, serve other people because we're serving ourselves,
Right.
right? And I think there's something really special once you can crack that code and figure it out.
What do you want women listening to hear if they are sitting in a job like they've outgrown, but they're terrified to leave?
So a couple things. I mean, do the core values exercise. I'll briefly share. Go and download Brene Brown's core values PDF file, and there's going to be a list of adjectives on there and things that we can mark off. And I've done this exercise with multiple leadership development companies. This is like the best stuff here that I'm going to share. And you go through and you highlight 15 core values, and then you scratch off five, so you're left with 10, and then you scratch off five more, so that you're left with five, and then you scratch off three, so you're left with two, and figure out what your core values are and make sure that you're getting really clear on are the actions that I'm doing every day, whether it's waking up and taking care of my family or going to work and doing this job that I don't like. Does this serve me? Does this reflect my values? And are my values getting fulfilled being in this environment? If the answer is no, that's probably a really good indicator that something should change. If the answer is
Right.
yes, then you're probably getting really anchored in your values and now you know. But if leaving a corporate job and starting a business is something that one of your listeners is trying to do the core values and then figure out it's hard work, right? It's very hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. So get really clear on that and get clear on what do you need to be successful? What are you good at? Where do you need help at? Where do you financially need to be? And what are some of the red flags that you need to be looking out for? Make sure that you have a plan so that you know how to be intentional when you do take that leap. But also, life is too short. If it doesn't feel good, you got to figure out a way to feel good, right?
Okay, time is flying. So we're
Yeah.
going to do a quick lightning round.
Oh, love.
Ooh, okay, so just answer the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay,
Love
here
it.
we go. What part of
Yeah.
yourself are you finally letting the world see?
Ooh, my assertive side, I think, probably
Yes,
my
I
assertive
love it.
side, my corporate side that I've been like masking. And I'm like, this is my red flag. And people are like, stop it. It's so toxic. It's so corporate. And I'm like, no, but it's like my secret sauce. So I'm going to do that. I
Good
would
for
say that.
you. Strength. Okay, what story or belief about yourself did you have to unlearn to step fully into who you are?
The progress over perfection has been the game changing lesson that I've learned about myself. I have been a type A perfectionist for a very long time. And I finally have realized that perfectionism only causes us more stress. So we really have to think about progress over
Very true.
perfection.
That's very true. It is very stressful.
Yeah.
Okay, as I sit here pondering, okay,
Yeah.
what does it cost you to be authentic, if anything, and why is it worth it?
It costs me I would so my first response was relationships, actually. In my head, I was thinking it costs me relationships, right? It costs me relationships in the sense that, to step into your true self and to feel good about your choices and to own your choices and to not care what other people think about your choices might not always rub others the wrong way. And so I've certainly lost relationships or have relationships have changed because of this new era of myself that I am in, but it's absolutely worth it because you lose yourself if you don't do it. And it's that
Corporate
simple.
bestie era. Here we go.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay, if you could unmute one truth people are too afraid to say, what would it be? What keeps you grounded when you feel pressure to perform or fit in?
I journal. I journal. I journal like the second that I feel pressure or a spiral or anxiety or an icky feeling, I write it down and I get it out on paper and I immediately feel better already. And it helps so much. Like it helps so much.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, this conversation has been so powerful. And thank you so much for your time. I am
Yeah.
curious before we wrap, if listeners walk away remembering just one thing from this convo, what do you hope it is?
You are capable of more than you realize. Yeah. I mean, you are capable of more than you realize. I will tell you really quickly, something that sticks with me is, and maybe that's the truth to unmute, is that we're capable than more than we realize. I had in a grammar school a principal and we used to go up and, Miss Anderson, can I use the bathroom? And she would say, I don't know, can you? And we would be like, why does she say that? Like we're trying to ask permission to go to the bathroom. But what her whole angle in that is you can, right? You don't need you have the ability to do it. When you're asking for permission, in a school setting, we should be using proper may I use
Right.
the bathroom, right? And it's so like junior and, kind of, just adolescent as that is something that I think about more often than not because when we sit here and we say things like we can't do something or we have self-limiting beliefs, they become the reality that we end up actually living. And so if we just remove the can'ts and the shoulds and my needs to and just believe in the things that we have the ability to do and then make the choice to do it, we blow ourselves away because
So
we're
good.
we're doing it. And it's the coolest thing ever.
So good. I'm going to remember that.
I
For
hope
sure,
so.
for
Ms.
sure.
Anderson would be very proud, I'm sure.
Thank you, Miss Anderson. Okay, and on a more personal note, what has it meant for you to share your story here on Unmute Yourself today?
It just, you know, I've come so far, right? Like every time I get on a podcast or I have a conversation like this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've done so much in a year. I've done so much in 2 years and in 6 months, right? And so this gives me an opportunity to talk about my story. It gets me to reach an audience that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And even if like a 30-second soundbite means something to somebody, like that's my purpose. That is my purpose, and that's what I wanna be doing, so, um, I'm so glad that you've invited me here to give me a space to do that, and I appreciate you sharing it with me.
Well, thank you so much for coming. And I
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
imagine listeners would love to connect with you. So, how can they find you and
Okay, find
connect?
me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. If you just go to LinkedIn, you can look up Elizabeth Taylor. I have a unicorn emoji next to my name. My business is The Corporate Bestie. I have a website, www.thecorporatebestie.com. You can also email me at liz@thecorporatebestie.com.
Well, thank you so much, Liz. And thank you
Yes.
for everyone listening and tuning in this season as we found stories that shows truth over comfort, alignment over approval, and courage over silence. And I'll be taking a little break before season 4 as I launch my Unmute Yourself group coaching program to help women find their power, work through corporate burnout, and get paid what they're worth. And if this episode resonated, share it, subscribe, and stay with us as we explore what it really means to live and lead without muting who you are. Until next time, unmute yourself and be who you already are.